When I was a teenager in high school, I never really thought of writing as a real skill. It seems like, anyone can just write. It's just, putting words together. It doesn't seem like there's anything measurable to it. But as I have tried to become a somewhat productive member of society by getting a job, the importance of writing becomes more apparent. It seems incredibly hard to say what you mean. You see a reality in your own head and you're trying to help the other person see the same reality. That process is incredibly difficult. This goes beyond writing to communication skills in general, but if we're just staying with writing, if I'm going to put words down on a page that I can show to another person, and if I want to really increase the likelihood that that other person can understand what I mean, that process is actually quite hard and it's time consuming, right? If you give me a month to write an email, I can probably write it pretty well, but in a normal job scenario where you have an employer who's driven by profit and really want you to get more work done in shorter period of time, you don't have a month to write an email. You need to write it in 10 minutes. So to be able to generate perfectly straightforward, understandable sentences that's context appropriate is very hard. So I've understood the importance of writing for a while, but it's only recently that I've starting to see that writing might actually be at the center of everything. So this is partly from my watching Dan Koh's content. Dan Koh's a writer who's on, I think, every social media. Check him out. But he said that writing is at the center of his content creation process. So I first discovered him on YouTube. So I never thought of writing as the central process for video production. I always thought that, for video production, there's the delivery of the video, right? Delivery of the speaker, how charismatic that person is. I thought that plays a big part. I thought that the various equipment with which to capture the video plays a big part, like the camera and the mic. I thought that the environment, the set is important. I thought that the editing process of the video is important. I never saw writing at the center of all of it, but thinking about it for a bit, it does seem to make sense, right? Writing, you need a script for YouTube videos that are coherent, especially for the type of video that I tend to make, where it's mostly, just me transferring some information that I find interesting to you through talking. If I script the video beforehand and I script it in a way that's optimal, the video is usually better. Dan Koh also talk about how he just have a central process of writing that gets permeated across all of his different activities in content creations across all platforms. So he talked about the idea of him writing a newsletter every week, and that newsletter get turned into a YouTube video, and segments of that newsletter get turned into various tweets or short form video content like YouTube Shorts or Reels or TikTok clips. It sounds like he can just write a very good newsletter every week, use that as the base of all of his content creation in all of his platform. But that's incredibly interesting. But Jordan Peterson actually says something even more aggressive about writing. According to Jordan, it's not that writing is at the center of content creation for creators, but he said that there's no difference between writing and thinking. And I can partly see that in myself. If I'm really trying to tackle a difficult and consequential decision, writing really helps. If I'm just thinking without the aid of writing, then it's just random thoughts going on in my brain and it's disorganized, and I don't really have that much working memory to capture all of these random thoughts. So even if interesting and relevant information come across in my mind, I'm going to forget it later. Writing them down is helpful, but if I'm writing those thoughts down in a coherent and understandable manner, they're no longer gibberish random thoughts of half sentences. They're now real, organized, useful information. So that part is helpful. And if I can write very well, then the way that I write gradually permeates into the habit with which I think. So the better I write, the better I think. I can kind of see that. The only problem I saw with that approach, the approach of writing as a thinking aid, is for someone who is not a master at writing like myself, it takes me a long time to write something good. Like I said, if you give me a month to write an email, that email will be quite good. It's going to be very succinct. Not a single word on that email will be wasted, but it's going to take me a month to write it. So if I'm making a decision and I'm using writing as an aid for it, it's going to be slower when I put the words, the random thoughts in my brain together on a page. It's going to be a longer process. But if a decision is consequential enough, obviously sitting down and spending some time to organize it on a page, organize your thoughts on a page is worth it. But one wouldn't want to do that for all decisions. If I I'm gonna decide what I eat for lunch, I'm not gonna sit down and for 3 hours and organize all my thoughts about lunch and come up with the optimal decision for it. It's not something that has enough consequence to be worthy of such a large time and effort investment. But I think what Jordan said is true in the sense that if I just keep practicing my writing and become better and better at it, the time it takes for me to produce good writing is going to become shorter and shorter. If you listen to how Jordan Peterson talks, it's incredible. Like the way that he uses words, the way that he pieces sentences together is incredible. Right? It's not about, sometimes we envision good writing to be, esoteric writing, like academic writing, the kind of writing you see on a research paper. That's not what I mean, right? Those kind of writing tend to overcomplicate things. Like you can say, the same information very easily with words that mortals understand, but instead you choose to use a esoteric word to sound smarter. That's not really how normal people communicate, nor is it how most businesses and real work is done in society. In the modern workplace, what we tend to see is people trying to describe information accurately, but with as little effort and as easily understandable as possible. And that's the balance I see that Jordan Peterson actually strikes with the way he speaks. It's like every sentence that comes out of his mouth spontaneously would take a less skilled writer an hour to write. But because Jordan is such a skilled writer and he's been practicing writing for a long time, he's able to generate great writing on the spot spontaneously and speak it out as he thinks. So I believe there is a paradigm that one can reach as one become better and better at writing, to the point where you don't need a lot of time to generate good writing. And at that point, you can really think the way you write. And if you write well, the way you think will be disciplined as well as a result, without you having to sit down and spend 3 hours to sort through your thought like I'm currently doing. So given that writing is so important, it seems to be at the center of everything. The fact that if you can't write well, you can't think well. And if you can't think well, if I can't think well, I can't do most of what I'm getting paid to do. Right? Given that writing is comparable to thinking, or is the same as thinking, I should really become better at writing. I plan to have some system to improve it and practice it on a regular basis. Twitter is a great platform for that, because Twitter allows you to essentially publish your writing, and if you have people looking at your tweets, based on their reaction to your tweets, you can see how well you've written it and iterate and improve upon it. So I've started looking into how to write good tweets. As a start, tweets are much shorter than, say, 1,000-2,000 words newsletter. So it's a great first step. So I plan to be more active on Twitter. I've started studying how to write good tweets, and it's fascinating. I always thought of tweets as just people's random thoughts throughout the day that they broadcast onto the internet. But after studying it for just about an hour, under an hour or so, observing good tweet writers, so accounts with big followings who have a regular posting schedule of their written tweets, I can observe some pretty interesting commonalities in terms of how the tweets are structured. And it's interesting to see that the same sort of structure can be observed across many different accounts that are doing well, which seems to suggest that there are best practices to writing good tweets. I'm still studying up on this, and I'm far from an expert, but that's the small steps I'm taking to become better at writing. If you want to see how I'm doing with this whole writing process, you can check me out on Twitter.